You know it's serious when a punchline on Saturday Night Live does more damage than a tabloid headline. 1 minute Colin Jost is delivering his usual monologue. The next, he casually aims a joke straight at Meghan Markle, and it lands like a sledgehammer. He says apparently one of the new terms in Trump's UK trade deal is we send Meghan Markle back, but only if she deletes her entire Instagram again. The crowd laughs, sure, but in that laugh, something shifted. This wasn't just shade. It was a public reset button. And Meghan, allegedly, she wasn't just upset. She was livid. Wine glass almost shattered level livid. The timing of it all couldn't have been worse for her, because while Colin was dropping punchlines on national television, the internet was already buzzing with something way heavier. A fresh wave of yacht girl photo. Not whispers, not forum gossip, actual images. Grainy, but clear enough to cause a digital meltdown. Photos of a woman who looked eerily like pre-royalty Meghan lounging on a sun-drenched yacht, surrounded by champagne flutes and well-connected men with that quiet money vibe. The bracelets matched, the vibe matched, even the damn lighting matched. It was internet CSI at its finest, and it was brutal. Thing is, the story is not really about the photos. Not entirely. It's about what they represent. Meghan spent years rebranding herself. From TV actress to duchess, from hustling for auditions to giving speeches on mental health and women's empowerment. She built a brand that screamed authenticity, resilience, and struggle. But brands like that, they're fragile. They rely on carefully curated narratives, clean, polished dramerie. And the moment something messy slips through, it threatens to collapse the whole structure. This isn't the first time the yacht rumors surfaced. They've been quietly circling for years in the underbelly of gossip blogs and Reddit threads, but they never caught fire until now. Back then, the world was too caught up in the Meghan vs. Palace drama to care. Every critique was brushed off as racism or jealousy. The fairy tale was too shiny to question. But now the honeymoon's over. The Spotify deal is dead. The Netflix buzz has cooled. And Meghan's team can't stop every clip, every meme, every TikTok stitch that brings those old photos roaring back to life. And here's the wild part. Colin Jost didn't even mention the yacht stuff. He didn't need to. His joke just cracked the door. The internet kicked it wide open. Because once someone like Colin pokes fun at Meghan, it's not just a jab. It's permission. Permission for the public to start laughing. And when the public laughs, the narrative shifts. Sympathy fades. Curiosity kicks in. People start digging. And the internet, it never forgets. So Meghan's team stayed quiet. No denial, no legal threats, no PR spin. Just radio silence. Which, let's be honest, only made things worse. Because in today's world, silence isn't neutral. It's suspicious. If it wasn't her in the photos, why not say so? Why not threaten to sue? Why not shut it down fast? The absence of any pushback turned curiosity into conviction. Even her most loyal defenders suddenly had no script. And Harry, poor guy, watching his wife's past unravel in real time, plastered across social media feeds and comedy skits. The man who famously hated the press is now trapped in the middle of the very circus he swore to escape. And the worst part, this time it's not the palace attacking them. It's culture itself. A mean storm. A satire avalanche. And when comedy turns on you, it's game over. Executives in Hollywood don't like unpredictability. They like buzz. Sure, drama even if it drives attention, but only the kind they can control. And Meghan, she stopped being controllable a long time ago. Whispers started floating through the industry, like smoke in a studio lot. She's a liability now. Not because of anything confirmed, not because of some single damning piece of evidence, but because of the vibe, a feeling that whatever came next could blow up without warning. Her name started slipping off invite lists. quiet removals from panel discussions, brand pitches going cold, documentaries left in limbo. You won't see that on the headlines, but insiders feel it. The shift, because the problem isn't just the rumors. It's how desperately her team tries to erase them. Calls to journalists, messages editors, requests to take down 10-year-old lifestyle coverage. It doesn't feel like privacy. It feels like hiding. And that yacht narrative, it hit deeper than people expected. Not because a woman can't live her life before marriage, but because the entire appeal of Meghan's brand was built on a certain kind of image, empowered, grounded, above it all. But when those photos hit timelines, whether real, fake, or heavily debated, they told a different story. They hinted at calculated moves, power connections, strategic appearances, a version of Meghan that didn't stumble into royalty, but climbed there, eyes wide open. Online, people didn't hold back. Twitter threads dissected everything from her early interviews to her vanished friends list. TikTok creators mapped out timelines, pointing out the weird gaps, the sudden disappearances, the people who once knew her but now wouldn't speak. And Instagram Reels started pulling footage from old red carpet events, zooming in on every smile, every glance with captions like, "Was it all a plan?" It wasn't even hate. It was fascination, like a live reality show unfolding in real time. The term inauthentic started sticking not just from tabloids or royal watchers, but from influencers, podcasters, even casual fans who once rooted for her. They weren't calling her evil, they were calling her fake. And in today's culture, that's almost worse. You can bounce back from controversy, even scandal. But being seen as a fraud, that's the kiss of death for anyone building a brand around vulnerability and truth. What really hit hard, though, was the absence of her usual defenders. The journalists who once wrote think pieces about her bravery. Quiet. The influencers who quoted her interviews like scripture radio silence. Even her inner circle seemed to go dim. One source said her PR team had a list of key media contacts they leaned on during crisis moments. But this time, most of them didn't bite, because no one wants to go down defending something they can't explain. Meanwhile, Harry was becoming collateral damage. Clips of him defending Meghan from the British press were now being stitched next to the yacht photos with mocking captions. People weren't just questioning Meghan anymore. They were wondering how much Harry knew, how much he ignored, and whether the fairy tale romance was built on something shakier than anyone thought. The guy gave up a crown, one tweet read, for someone who may have just played him like a Netflix role. The internet is ruthless like that. It doesn't need proof. It just needs a pattern. And once the narrative forms, it moves fast. Faster than statements, faster than lawyers, faster than control. Meghan's polished exterior wasn't just cracking. It was being memed into irrelevance, not by palaces or press barons, but by content creators with ring lights and opinions. And nothing scares a media-trained personality more than a camera they can't spin. The real damage wasn't the photos or the punchlines. It was in what they represented. A woman who had spent years crafting a story, so airtight it could hold up under the weight of royal scrutiny, was now facing a storm she couldn't outmaneuver. The narrative she controlled so tightly had slipped from her hands. It wasn't just unraveling. It was being rewritten by strangers in real time. And it wasn't just fans or haters doing the rewriting. Journalists who once took Meghan's side were now revisiting their own articles, adding cautious disclaimers, rewarding once glowing headlines. Even publications that prided themselves on supporting modern royalty had started dialing back their tone. One major media outlet quietly updated their archive, removing flattering photo spreads of her early career, not because they knew something for sure, but because something didn't feel right anymore. Back in Montecito, insiders claimed Meghan's team was working overtime, cycling through strategy after straight leak a new philanthropy project, tease an exclusive sit-down interview, drop vague wellness content about staying grounded through adversity, but none of it landed. Nothing stuck, because the audience had shifted. They weren't waiting for the next chapter in her story. They were rereading the first few and realizing things didn't add up. There were whispers about a new documentary coming soon, one that could dive deeper into the Yacht allegations, her past connections, maybe even testimony from former acquaintances who have been silent until now. And while Meghan's legal team was reportedly on high alert, preparing for every possible scenario, the public was more focused on the irony. The woman who sued newspapers for violating her privacy might soon be the subject of the most public character dissection of the decade. Meanwhile, Harry had grown noticeably absent. Paparazzi, who used to snap the couple out on casual strolls or charity events, now reported fewer sightings. Some claimed he'd returned to the UK for a private visit. Others speculated he was spending more time apart from Meghan, even within their own home. One photographer noted how Harry always looked exhausted lately, head down, shoulders tense, like a man carrying more than just regret. It didn't take long for tabloids to start floating rumors of a rift, and while those headlines are often exaggerated, the silence from both camps spoke volumes. For a couple that once curated every public move with surgical precision, their current absence was deafening. No family photos, no slick promotional videos, no inspirational couple content, just nothing. Back online, the conversation had gone from gossip to deep dives. People were now talking about pattern recognition, about the disappearance of old college friends, the scrubbing of digital history, the sudden elevation into elite social circles right before she met Harry. Forums started collecting screenshots, timelines, metadata. It was no longer a debate. It was a case file, and Meghan was no longer just a figure in the public eye. She was an investigation. That's the problem with building your image like a brand. It works beautifully when the audience buys in, but when they start to feel manipulated, when they see too many filters, too many inconsistencies, they don't just walk away. They turn. They pull receipts. They do what they always do in the age of internet justice. They dig. So now Meghan finds herself in a place no amount of fame or followers can fix. Not because she's guilty of anything criminal, but because in trying to control the story so tightly, she gave the impression she had something to hide. And when the public thinks you're hiding something, they'll look for it hard, until they find it or create it. Either way, your image is no longer yours. It belongs to them now,